I have to say that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War single player, which is what this whole video is about today, is such a phenomenal experience, and it is best played on PlayStation 5. And I'm not talking about resolution, I'm not talking about frame rates, I'm talking about the overall experience, and it has so much to do with the DualSense controller, and even to a small degree, and not the way you would think, the Pulse 3D headset, particularly with the 3D audio. Now, I'm going to devote this entire video to the single player element. I'm not talking about multiplayer at all. I will definitely be getting into spoilers, but it's not until later on in the video when I talk about the actual game. What I first want to talk about is why it is a definitive experience on the PlayStation 5. The DualSense controller with the adaptive feedback in terms of how hard you have to push down on a controller, in terms of the fact that they have completely re-engineered how this controller vibrates, how it kicks, the speaker in it that produces some amount of volume, although it's kind of hard to hear when you have headphones on, radically changes this game. Every single gun is tuned very differently. Pistols have a very light vibration to them. It almost feels like a pop. The trigger is very easy to pull. On the other spectrum, weapons like sniper rifles and shotguns are much harder to pull, vibrate much more violently, and have a much heavier feel to them. And as a result, in this game, when you discharge a weapon and you get a kill or a hit, you really feel it. And I don't just mean in your hands shaking, but it feels like so much more of an accomplishment over any other game that just has flat triggers. And I really thought that the DualSense was going to be just a gimmick. I really did. But I've got to say, it radically changes the way Call of Duty is played, particularly because Black Ops Cold War involves a lot of stealth. And it isn't until very pivotal moments do you go loud. And it's in those moments when you start shooting and the controller starts kicking, does it really make it feel like you are being aggressive and violent. And I haven't experienced that in a game before. Now, onto the DualSense. Now onto the Pulse 3D headphones. I played the entire game with these headphones, and I've got to say that they sound great. I really like them. They had a very distinct vibration and rumble, and they sound really clear. The fact that they're wireless, the fact that the battery lasts for seemingly ever, which is like 15 hours, is great as well. The one problem I had is the 3D audio, and that was something that was so incredibly frustrating because Call of Duty makes such a big deal about the audio, and they talk a lot about in the developers' blogs the Treyarch sound profiles that they've carefully calibrated. And PlayStation obviously has made a huge deal of the Tempest 3D audio, particularly with Mark Cerny talking about this huge hour-long presentation during CES and how they are kind of shunning Dolby Atmos in exchange for their own homebrew 3D audio. And unfortunately, it fails horribly in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It sounds horrible. Everything is incredibly muffled. Everything has a very constant low rumble to it. It is impossible to use the 3D audio to accurately see and sense your 3D space, to kind of feel and hear where enemies are. It doesn't work out the way you think it does. Everything gets very jumbled and very muddy and very just not good. And I tried it on a lot of different headsets. I tried it on my Sennheisers. I tried it on a pair of Bose headphones that I had, in-ear headphones. Obviously, I tried it on the Pulse 3D headphones. 3D audio in this game is a major letdown. Do yourself a favor when playing Black Ops on PlayStation 5, if you are using headphones, turn off 3D audio, it's going to sound significantly better. And when you turn 3D audio off, the game has a very nice sound to it. It's almost as if the clarity is, the cobwebs are lifted out of your ears, and it's a clear, nice, vibrant sound. And it sounds phenomenal on the Pulse 3D headphones, minus the 3D audio, surprisingly enough. And it actually sounds good on anything. It sounds good on my A40s with my mix amp. It sounded good with my A40s just plugged into my DualSense. It sounded good on my Sennheisers. I had no issue at all. And what I love about the sound design is because the game takes place in the 80s, you have a lot more metallic sounds to the guns, the way that they are. They just feel heavier. And I think that has a lot to do with how the DualSense makes you feel when you're shooting a gun as well. But the fact that the actual headphones themselves have a very distinct sound to kind of match what you're physically feeling in your hands does make the guns feel a lot throatier and a lot more violent than they have in other games. So kind of a really good synergy there. I can't say enough good things about it. Now, I did bring my PlayStation 5 and plug it into my monitor, which does support 120 hertz frame rate. And I did put the PlayStation 5 into performance mode, and I did disable ray tracing, and I was able to play Call of Duty single player at 120 hertz, and it looks great. Does it look significantly better than the 60 frames per second? Yes, because there are times when the 60 frame per second does drop down just a little bit. You get a minor amount of screen tearing or just an ever so slight hiccup, which does kind of take you out of the experience. You don't have that in the 120 frame rate, because even if the frame rate does drop, it's dropping down to like 100 frames per second or 90 frames per second. So does it look significantly smoother or clearer? Not necessarily. You do give up some of the most gorgeous visuals with the ray tracing, but it is supported if you want it. It is also supported in multiplayer, which I'm not talking about today. As I mentioned, I'm only talking about single player. So before I get into anything of the plot of the game, I just want to say that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is an absolute smash hit on the PlayStation 5, just from a technical standpoint. The DualSense, the way that the sound is kind of married into that, the feel of the controller, it does a really good job of immersion. And with that, I'm going to transition over into the story. And I'm going to start off by saying I'm still not talking about spoilers just yet. I will let you guys know when I do. But I want to say that out of all the Call of Duties I have played, this is by far the best story I've played. I thought Infinite Warfare was a really, really good story. I loved how that story ended. However, I think what makes Cold War so good is that it's not a traditional Call of Duty game. It is not a corridor shooter. It is not a run and gun just shoot-a-thon as other Call of Duties are. And sure, there are those moments when you have to go loud and just go ham, and they give you some phenomenal kill streaks like chopper gunners and AC-130 gunners, bombing runs, napalm strikes. You get to play with all the toys. And then, of course, they give you some incredibly kitted out weapons, and they put you in some really cool Call of Duty moments. However, the majority of the game is not about that. It's more of the covert and spy world, and spy versus spy, and bugging people and sneaking through apartments and setting up traps or taking photos of hidden bases to plan out things. It has dialogue options. You can choose what happens to particular characters, and that does reflect in the story. By saving or killing people, it does change how your story will play out. And if you have a keen eye and you're really taking your time to explore each level, which I never thought I would be saying in a Call of Duty game, exploring each level. If you take the time to meticulously go through and collect all of the pieces of evidence, and I'm not talking about the old crap where a piece of evidence was just a computer, some sort of computer tablet that you would just collect and say, oh, one of 50 collected, go find the other 49 for a cheap trophy. No. Actual evidence, a newspaper clipping, a photograph of something, a watch, whatever. You take it back to your hub space and you look at it and you analyze it and uncover clues, which will lead you to 2 bonus levels that you have to decipher to figure out exactly what you're supposed to be doing, how to get there, what the objectives are. So there's a puzzle element to this game, and I gotta admit the puzzles were really, really good. And it's really just taking your time and exploring each level, putting together the clues you have to solve things. A lot of times in missions, you have dialogue and you have choices on who is going to not really do what. It is scripted to a very large degree. But I feel like I had much more ownership of my character. You play as a character named Belle. And I feel like you had much more control over Belle because you were making choices. A character would ask you what you would think, and you could be nice, you could be mean, you could ignore them, you could save hostages, you could kill hostages. There are even optional quests inside each level. So along your way to do something, you might get a call or find something or stumble across something that will require you to do just a little bit more. Now, it's not that extravagant. I don't want you guys to think this is along the lines of a game like Dishonored or other giant open world games. It's still very much in the Call of Duty world, but they really did a phenomenal job of injecting in these little ancillary things to do. I'm sure the biggest criticism from people is going to be that Call of Duty is not Call of Duty anymore. It took on way too many things. I would argue that it makes it even better because you are dealing with a very intense situation in the Cold War. This whole spy versus counter spy in this game absolutely nails it. Some of the gadgets that you use, the fact that they painted themselves in 1980s technology, but you just got done playing Modern Warfare, which takes place present day, obviously modern. But to have a game come out for the next generation of consoles and still find a way to push the envelope, even though they're stuck in 1980s technology, they pulled it off. They did a phenomenal job. They absolutely pulled it off. And I gotta really give credit to Treyarch because I think they did a really, really good job with this. There's a lot of fun little Easter eggs. There's a lot of fun little arcade machines and funny dialogue and things you'll overhear. You can talk to characters and learn more about them between each mission, or not. If you just want to run and gun, you can do that too. All the stealth missions, with the exception of 2, I believe, you can play just total Rambo if you want to. Grab the first guard, kill him, and just go loud. And depending on what character you're playing with, they appreciate that a little more or a little less. I grew a huge, huge love for Frank Woods because he is like he's like Solid Snake in real life. Just a very gruff voice. He wants to shoot, he wants to fight, and he loves going loud, so to speak. He was a ton of fun to play with on missions. Not play with his character, but he's actually with you. You're always playing as Belle for the most part. There's a couple times where you jump around. But I just want to close out the spoiler-free section by saying you absolutely have to do yourself a favor and play this game on PlayStation 5. It was such a revolutionary experience. With that, I will be jumping over into some spoilers. So if you haven't yet played the single-player campaign and you don't want it to be ruined, turn this video off. For everyone else, I want to talk to you guys about the endings. And there's a couple really cool things that was done here, and I want to give major credit to the developer on this because I think they did such a phenomenal job when it comes to really laying out some really cool twists. It's very clear that something is going on, and I want to preface all this by saying I did not play either of the Cold War games, although I'm familiar with what they're about. The fact that there's this whole mind, you can kind of take people's memories and brainwash people definitely plays into this. I thought it was so cool that when the game starts, you actually put in your own name and you see your own name on the screen, and you get to pick perks which last throughout the experience that kind of determine your unique play style. I thought that was a phenomenal touch. And then to find out, towards the end of the game that you're actually a captured Russian agent who's been brainwashed into thinking you're an American agent, and they've been slowly trying to pull information out of you using the trigger phrase, is so cool. They really borrowed a lot, obviously, from BioShock with, Would You Kindly? But it was cool, and I caught on to that pretty quickly. Maybe it was a little too ham-fisted by the developer, but it was cool that, Adler was playing you like a damn fiddle the entire game, and you had no idea until the very end there when you went through that really cool scene. Very self-aware scene where they're replaying, what happened in Vietnam, even though obviously you weren't there, over and over again to kind of make you remember this scene to help you understand what was going on with Perseus. And I loved that. Adler's like, you got out of the helicopter and you picked up an M416. And I ran over and picked up an MP5, and he's like, well, the gun doesn't matter. Just a lot of little references like that. Like, the developers really took their time to think how you would play through these experiences. I think the second time you went through, when all the enemies actually looked like Adler and the computer screen was saying, do not trust them, do not trust them. It was like your brain trying to fight off the medicine that the CIA had injected into you. It was really, really cool. Then you get to that end and that pivotal moment where you get to choose if you want to be helpful to the team or lie to the team. Both endings phenomenal. The ending where you lie to the team and then set up an ambush where you actually have to kill each member of the team was phenomenal. It was such an incredible moment. So I played through the first time and I actually helped the team. And I felt good, okay, clearly I want to do what's best, and launching nukes across most of Europe, definitely not what's best, but I want to do what's best for for Europe. And the fact you get to the very end of the game and Adler's like, hey, there's one more thing I need you to do, and then he pulls out his gun and you pull out your gun and it slows down and fades to black. All this time, no matter what you do, it's just you are a tool. You are a tool. I know, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean like a tool of the government, but you could be a tool, I guess, as well if you want to be. It was so brilliant how they wrote that scene, and I loved it. I loved that you had to make a choice in the mission before of who was going to live and who was going to die. That plays into it. And then you get the really cool ending where you have President Reagan kind of getting a debrief, and you're seeing everything you did. If you did those optional missions, you hear what the impacts of those were. And if you did, all the things, depending on who you saved and who lived and who died, they each got their own bio. You heard about what team members lived and what team members died. And it was really, really cool. It made me feel very rewarded in the investment I made in the characters and the choices I made. And then, of course, I had to go back again and play it with the evil ending where I lied to the team. That was really, really cool also, because you find out, obviously, that, you get to kill everybody. The scene at the end where you actually are the one to finish off Adler was phenomenal, where you find out that the main villain is not just a singular person, but rather a collection of people. You're the one that gets to actually call in the actual nuke codes. And then it seems like the world is in disarray as both President Reagan and Vice President Bush are hidden in bunkers, scattered, as the U.S. prepares for most likely some sort of major retribution from the world. Both incredible endings for very radically different reasons. And both of them really made me audibly very excited. So I was like, oh my God, this was a great game. I did not expect this from a Call of Duty game. I love this. I really, really, really enjoyed this experience. It was something I did not expect. I'm really glad I bought it for the multiplayer. That's the thing. I bought Call of Duty to play multiplayer. And I'll talk about multiplayer in another video. But I'm so glad I spent the time, about 6 hours, to get through everything, do all the stuff I wanted to do. I loved it. I can't say enough good things about it, and I just want to emphasize as I close out this video, it's really best played on PlayStation 5. There's no doubt about it. It's just the way the controller feels in your hand. I don't care if there was a graphical hit between the 5 and the Series S, X. I don't care. This controller is a game changer. I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive of the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, my impressions on the game. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you did. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. I don't know. Don't give me a thumbs down. Well, you do you. How about that? Thank you guys so much for watching. Really, take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.